Robinson County yesterday to come to Roland, North Carolina. It's 3 minutes from the South Carolina line. You can go to Dillon, south of the border, and have a good day. And I will be more than glad to escort you and take you around Roland, North Carolina, and all the parts that make up that very poor area in southeastern Robinson County. So don't forget this school. I'm going to hold you to it. And these kids have high potential. They will, who knows, that school could just be loaded with AIG kids in the next 5 years. Wouldn't that be great? It depends on us. It really does. Certainly on Dr. Hall and his staff, but it really comes down to the policymakers and those of us who are about to take this vote. So no more grandstanding on Olivia Oxendine's part. I'm ready to make the motion. I move that the board accept the recommendation of Dr. Eric Hall to approve Achievement for All Children as the operator of Southside Ashpole Elementary School located in Robinson County.
Motion by Dr. Oxendine, second.
Second.
Second by Ms. White. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? No?
No.
Okay, we're going to do a show of hands.
You want to roll call?
All those in favor of the motion, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
That's it.
Those opposed, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4. The motion stands approved, 7-4. Dr. Ox, Ms. Taylor, I'm sorry.
She was doing a good job.
No, you take it over, my dear.
Okay, we have one more action item, EICS 2, and this is as we prepare for the moving into the innovative school. I move that the State Board of Education grant permission to operate Southside Ashpole as, let me read the law. Hang on. Okay. Hold on. I don't have that item. See, I told you she was doing a better job than me.
What are you looking for?
Here we go. I move the State Board of Education grant permission to operate Southside Ashpole as authorized under Article 14A of Chapter 115C.
Okay. Motion by Ms. Taylor, second by Mr. McDevitt. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed, no. The motion stands approved. Ms. Taylor.
We have two discussion items yesterday. EICS 3, Mr. Alex Quigley presented the 2018 charter school application recommendations. There were 8 that are recommended for approval, 14 non-approval, and this item will return for a vote in May. We also had another discussion item, EICS 4, the 2018 Charter Schools Timeline, Charter Agreement, and Application Process presented by Dr. Deanna Townsend Smith. And once again, this will return for a vote in May. And that does conclude our report.
Thank you, Ms. Taylor. Mr. Davis, I recognize you for the Student Learning and Achievement Committee report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Eric Davis. Along with my colleague, Dr. Oxendine, we chair the Student Learning and Achievement Committee. We have one action item, which is approval of an alternative accountability model. This item was before us last month, and I move that we approve the alternative accountability model as presented in SLA 1.
Motion by Mr. Davis, second by
Second.
Mr. Alcorn. I saw your hand first. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed, no. Motion stands approved. Mr. Davis.
We have two items on action for first read. First is invitation to submit textbooks through our proper process. I move that we approve the SLA 2 as presented.
Motion by Mr. Davis, second by Ms. Willoughby. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed, no. Motion stands approved. Mr. Davis.
Our third item is a nominee to the State Advisory Council on Indian Education membership. The nominee is Angela Richardson, who is distinctly qualified to fulfill this role, and I move that the Board of Education approve this nomination.
Okay, motion by Mr. Davis, second by
I second.
Dr. Oxendine. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed, no. Motion stands approved.
We had 4 discussion items. The first is revision to the policy requiring end of course, requiring at least 20% of the student's final grade. That item will be back before us next month for decision. We also had a discussion item on filling roles on the Council for Exceptional Children. That item will also be back, and I remind my colleagues to submit names to our team for that important work. We also received a report on the annual report on the status of Indian education in North Carolina, and then finally a report on an early warning system to better leverage the data that we have on students to identify students who need greater care and support in our schools. Mr. Chair, that concludes our report.
Okay, well, thank you, Mr. Davis. Ms. Willoughby, I recognize you for the Healthy Responsible Students Committee report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We had one new business item, which was a wonderful and powerful report from Rockingham County Schools about their high school health centers. And I'm hopeful that the superintendent's school health committee will invite them to come back and talk about the good work they're doing and the way they're successfully carrying out that work for about 20 years in Rockingham County, and that concludes the HRS committee.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Willoughby. Board members, that concludes our reporting and voting on board agenda items. Thank you for your preparation for and participation in the discussions for our business this month. Thank you to Superintendent Johnson and to all the staff for your preparations and presentations. We now have a number of items to take care of before we adjourn. Board members, I begin this morning with a reminder that our planning and work session for the spring is scheduled for Tuesday and Wednesday, May 1st and 2nd. Our monthly board meeting will then be scheduled for one day, Thursday, May the 3rd. Please have these dates on your calendar. Ms. West expects to send a draft agenda within the next week to 10 days. She and other State Board of Education staff are working with Dr. Maria Petrie Martin on developing the agenda. If there are any topics in particular that you hope to address, please contact Ms. West as soon as possible. All activities will take place here in the education building, so we will not be traveling for this session. I am hopeful that we can resume our partnership with our teacher preparation programs across the state for our November meeting to plan and work session. I want to applaud the progress of the revisions and amendments to our licensure and education preparation program policies with great work from the staff and from the Professional Educator Practices and Standards Committee. I know that this work will continue, but I appreciate the dedication of all involved for driving it into this work in a short amount of time and producing a number of amendments approved so far. Board members, before we go to our other new business, I ask if any of you have any new business to bring before the board at this time. Okay, seeing none, board members and advisors, you are aware that Ms. Betsy West will be retiring May 1st. So this is her last board meeting. So sad.
She doesn't look sad.
So we will need to fill the position of Director of Operations.
Dale has left the conference.
Do I hear a motion for a recommendation? Ms. White?
Thank you, Chairman Kobe. As you know, Ms. Betsy West announced her retirement as Board Director of Operations and Policy at the end of February after a long and distinguished career. The board was then challenged with the very difficult position of trying to fill her shoes. I am very pleased to announce that we do have a candidate today to recommend at this time. That candidate's name is Dr. Deanna Townsend Smith, who currently serves as the Assistant Director of the Charter Schools with the Department of Public Instruction for the state of North Carolina. It is with confidence that I bring her name forward as the board's candidate for this position.
Is there a second to the motion? A second by Ms. Taylor?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Any comments before?
I see there's also a big fan club in the back of the room.
Yes, I know, Ms. Taylor, you've worked with Dr. Townsend Smith for 5 years.
I have, and you know, I don't want Betsy to leave. I mean, Betsy's been our everything. And so I immediately, my brain said, oh my goodness, what are we gonna do? And I will tell you, Dr. Deanna Townsend Smith, watches what Betsy does. She's complimented her to me oftentimes, and I just know that she has the professionalism, she has the detail, attention to detail that we need. She also knows how to work with multiple things at one time, thrown at her at one time that change by the minute. She works very hard. As a person that works with me on the committee, it's not unusual to have emails and texts from her 10, 11 at night, 6 a.m. the morning before board or the night before. Do you need anything? You need to meet with me? I know this is the right decision.
Okay, well, any other comments?
With that said, I hope we've got a process to replace her quickly when she's leaving, because we're gonna need it.
Okay, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? No. The motion is unanimous, and Dr. Townsend Smith, will you and your fan club please stand? Well, welcome to the State Board of Education office. I'm sure you'll find it interesting, but you're coming from a very interesting place. So we may not be as interesting as the Office of Charter Schools. We now come to the election of a new vice chairman of the State Board of Education, and I will entertain a nomination among board members.
Chairman Kirby,
Yes.
I would like to make a nomination. I would like to nominate Mr. Eric Davis as vice chair.
Okay. Is there a second to that? Second by Mr. Alcorn. Are there any other nominations? Seeing none, all in favor of electing Mr. Eric Davis as vice chairman of the board, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion stands approved, and congratulations, Mr. Davis.
Yeah.
This feels like a setup.
I don't know anything about it.
When I was elected vice chair,
What's his
Mr.
name?
Wayne
Yeah.
provided me with something that I didn't realize how important it was to have. And that was my parking pass.
That's better than that.
He needs to show you where that is.
Janice
Thank you, board members. And now, board members, it's time to bid farewell to our outgoing vice chairman, Mr. A.L. Buddy Collins, who has filled his role faithfully for the past 5 years. I am personally extremely grateful to Mr. Collins for his advice and counsel over these 5 years. His perspective and thoughts always informed my thinking about issues and decisions before the board, because unlike me, he served for 16 years on a local school board. And I never had that opportunity or challenge, I should say, real challenge. Buddy, you will be sorely missed, but we wish you Godspeed as you go on to other things. I suspect that this is not the last time we'll hear from you. You have all of our cell phone numbers, so I'm guessing you will continue to stay in touch with us from time to time. And now I'd like to recognize you for a few closing comments. Here, you want to stand up?
No, I can sit. This is where I've been some time. Far and away the best prize that life gives is to work hard at work worth doing, is what Teddy Roosevelt said one time. And I will tell you that there is no better work that can be done that's more worthwhile than helping children learn how to read, to fulfill their full potential, and to succeed in life. And that's what we do. That's what other folks do. And that's the privilege that I've had to be with all of you guys. I had a chance a couple weeks ago to attend a workshop or a seminar class, in which students were asking about the future of education. And it struck me that we don't think about the history of education in this state enough. We've had a long history in this state of educating children. Original Constitution said it was one of our prime missions. But if we look at what has happened, we live in a world in which we live in a civilization that is the richest, the most technologically advanced, and the freest the world has ever known. And how did that happen? It happened on the backs of an education system that was originally designed to create 8th grade factory workers. And so how did we succeed? How did we make it that much better? And the answer is it's because of teachers in classrooms. And I guess the thing that bothers me the most of all that we've done, and it was brought home today when Ms. Spellings was talking, if we're going to make a change in education and not have teachers at the table, we're going to make a big mistake. Because history proves that we may think we're in charge of education. The 26 or so commissions in this town who think they are in charge of education forget the basic truth is that when that classroom door closes, the people who are in charge of education in this state are the classroom teachers. So if I leave you anything, if you echo back to any of my rants or any of my protestations against the 10,000, I want you to remember the teachers first. First, do no harm, and measure twice, cut once. That's the way policies be made. I am known on the days of State Board to post sarcastic, pithy, cynical quotes on my Facebook. And today I decided I'd channel Gandalf. It is not ours to master all the tides of the world, but to do what is in us for the succor of those years wherein we are set, uprooting the evil in the fields that we know, so that those who live after may have a clean earth to till. What weather they have is not ours to rule. So may you guys have good weather. And may God continually bless those who teach, learn, and work in education of the state. It's been my honor and privilege to serve with you.
Thank you, buddy. I'm not going to call you Mr. Collins. It has been an honor and a privilege and a pleasure to serve with you and to benefit from all of your experience and great knowledge and passion for education. I now recognize Ms. Betsy West to read a resolution written for you. By Ms. Betsy West.
It's my honor and my privilege.
Last resolution. It's definitely one of her best.
Well, unless some of you would like me to write yours in advance, before I'll be happy to just sign up in my office for a charge. But Mr. Collins, it truly will be an honor to read this this resolution honoring you, and I hope you will believe that that I did it justice. North Carolina State Board of Education resolution honoring A.L. Buddy Collins for outstanding service as a North Carolina State Board of Education member, April 2013 to April 2018. Whereas the North Carolina State Board of Education takes pride in the extraordinary qualities and dedication of the citizens who have served public education as members of the North Carolina State Board of Education, and whereas Mr. A.L. Buddy Collins has reflected these qualities in an exceptional manner during his 5 years as a State Board of Education member and as Vice Chairman, and whereas Mr. Collins' many and varied experiences as an attorney and businessman, a community leader, a local Board of Education member for more than 15 years, a local community college Board of Trustees member, an author, a blogger, outdoorsman, and nature photographer, and parent of children in the state's public schools, positioned him perfectly to serve on the State Board of Education. And whereas Buddy Collins' lifelong belief, grounded in his faith, that equal rights for all and the protection of those rights are worthy beliefs that make for worthy work, and whereas his unquestionable belief in the right of all children to have equal access to a strong public education, both with equal access to needed resources and with the presumption that they are all worthy of and have a right to academic rigor and high expectations, regardless of their circumstances. And whereas Mr. Collins' participation on the State Board of Education, both as a member and as its vice chair, as well as his membership on the North Carolina School Safety Task Force, the Task Force on Summative Assessment, and the Whole Child NC Commission, gave him a voice on multiple issues and widened his opportunities to advocate for improvements for children and educators. And whereas Buddy Collins' insatiable curiosity and intense interest in the world and in the history and understanding of all its people and their stories and conditions have contributed to his fight for them as an attorney, his interest in them as a volunteer, and as a spokesman for them in his local and state leadership roles. And whereas the board understands that his stubborn, steely determination and his often intense, resolute manner have reflected the seriousness with which he approaches his work, and his single-minded motivation simply to set in motion change for good and change for improvement. And whereas Buddy Collins' persistent habit of questioning and pushing for change and better answers reflects the size of his heart, and his compassion for those, I'm going to do this, who have no voice or no advocate. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the North Carolina State Board of Education expresses its heartfelt appreciation to Mr. A.L. Buddy Collins for his steadfast service and dedication, and resolve that the board wishes Godspeed to Buddy Collins and his family as he pens yet another chapter in the book of his life of service, and civic participation for the greater good, and resolve that the board expresses its highest praise for his service to the state of North Carolina and its 1.5 million public school children and 100,000 plus educators while serving as a state board member and vice chair, and resolve that the state board, influenced by Mr. A.L. Buddy Collins' knowledge, insight, intellect, commitment, and unrelenting energy for service, directs the Secretary of the State Board of Education to enter a copy of this resolution into the official minutes of the State Board of Education, and that an appropriately signed copy be presented to Buddy Collins, a proud North Carolina State University Wolfpacker for life. And the crystal. No, come on. Everybody. Everybody.
Do that one and then I'll abscond. Do one of those.
Okay. 90% of my pictures.
But not
You just travel with
One, two, three, and one more. One, two, and three.
No.
Please, come on up. And gets the coveted apple.
The crystal apple.
Come on, get with me.
Okay, let's have people come up a little bit. Two rows, no, just. How's that? Let's see, a little bit more, everybody in.
I'll do this, look, I'll do the sorority, yeah.
Okay, and one, two, and three. One more, one, two, and three.
Mr. Chairman, may I have the honor of making the last motion today? I move we adjourn.
There's a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Dr. Oxendine. All those in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Let's see if we can make that happen. We have billions.
We stand adjourned. Normally done.
I felt crazy.
I guess I can say congratulations. That's really what it feels like. Not y'all yet. Y'all don't think congratulations yet.